Hey guys, it's Lion here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're doing our wrap-up video for the month of August 2024. And I want to do this as fast as possible, but like usual, I'll probably end up taking a long time, so hopefully not too long, right? So let's start with kind of an update, I guess, or like just kind of a conversation about the channel. Just a reminder, I do have two channels now. So the main one is HobbiesofaMan, where I basically just talk about whatever whenever I feel like it. And I also have the Sword and Sorcery Book Club, which is a Sword and Sorcery exclusive type of channel. I mostly talk about Conan on there, but I am going to expand a little bit beyond that to creators that are similar to Robert E. Howard, right? So I'm going to do all of the Robert E. Howard stuff over there. I'm going to do Sumerian in September over there. And anything that falls into Sword and Sorcery is of creators that are similar to Robert E. Howard or in some way ties into that stuff. I will mention over there in some way. I might mention it over here as well, but it kind of depends. There's a few different things that I'm doing on the channel, on this channel, on HobbiesofaMan right now, that honestly should have been done on that channel, but I wanted to at least keep it Conan-centric for the first couple months of the channel, just to hopefully make it as niche as possible to increase its growth. It has not really worked that well. I mean, getting 25 subscribers in a month is pretty good for like a brand new channel, but at the same time, I also have like a second channel to leverage that, or like a more established channel to leverage that, and I'm kind of upset about how slowly it's growing, in the sense that I feel like it could be growing better, and I'm just not sure why it's not. And, you know, there's a lot of reasons for that. I also could do the research and stuff, but I don't feel like it. So I'm kind of just doing in this kind of like vague sense of frustration about the channel, which is kind of understandable. It's normal. It's not really that big of a deal. I feel like even though the channel isn't growing that well, the fact that I met so many people at Howard Days and that I've interacted with such key figures in the Conan community, like Jim Zub, like Jeff Shanks, like Sage and Dogs, like Sean Curley from the Heroic Signatures Conan the Barbarian official channel, I'm getting opportunities and things and getting to do things that are kind of unprecedented for someone of my size, right? Not necessarily, because, you know, if you compare it to like Stitch and Dogs, he's managed to get interviews with Jim and Jeff more or less at the same size as me. But if I start putting those on the other channel, it's going to be crazy that this channel with less than 50 subscribers somehow got an interview with Jeff Shanks, right? Or somehow was featured in Jim Zub's newsletter, or got to put questions in directly to the creators through Sean Curley, or whatever the case might be. And that's really exciting. It's really cool, but it's also kind of odd. But it actually speaks a lot to what I'm learning as an MBA student, which is really awesome. It's really cool to see what I'm learning in some of my classes directly correlate with what I'm doing in my life, right? So I think that's really great. It helps cement those ideas, right? Specifically with the classes I'm taking nowadays, because I'm taking an international management class, and I'm taking a power and politics class, and that's in quotation marks because it's more of a social science class. It's about how you as an individual have to grow your ability to interact with people, and be genuine about it, to create better interactions. And I've always been someone that tries to be as nice as possible to everyone and stuff like that, but I've never really used that to leverage into opportunities. And I'm starting to do that now, and I'm finding that it's really, really cool and really interesting, and it's very well, satisfying, I guess is the right word, right? So hopefully the channel grows more, and I can use the stuff that I'm learning in my MBA to kind of, you know, create better opportunities for myself on YouTube, just for the fun of it, because it's cool and it's interesting, and it's a good way to practice these skills, right? So yeah, that's kind of the update there for Sword and Sorcery Book Club. In terms of Lion, HobbiesofaMan, the main channel, I am a bit upset about how this past month went, in the sense that for whatever reason, I just ended up with like a billion different comic book videos, and they don't do that well on the channel, but I do them for myself mostly because I enjoy recording them and because I like being able to not have to go back and read the whole thing and just kind of listen to myself talk about what I read through the previous issue. But I feel like it probably harmed my channel. Only a few of them get more than 50 views. And that's a bit disappointing because even though they're very easy for me to do and they take almost no work, it's annoying to have so many videos to do, have most of them not do very well, and then just kind of like flood my channel with content that is supposed to be secondary and is slowly morphing into main content. And I'm just not sure how to balance that. So I've been thinking about that a lot, and I'm not really sure how to deal with it. So I think maybe just stop doing some of those comic book by the issue reviews probably, but at the same time that feels like quitting, and I don't like doing that. And so I'm kind of stuck. Like I put myself, and I have two differing opinions, and I'm kind of in this hard place in between, like, you know, two different, very difficult to kind of pick ideas, and I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do. So I'm just gonna continue chugging along the same way that I'm doing as I continue to think about the issue and try to find a way to develop it and to deal with it, right? Because I don't want to make another channel and have like HobbiesofaMan _ be like a separate channel, because at that point it's kind of annoying to just have to have like a billion channels, right? Like I don't want to do that. It's also annoying because it'll have to like create a new like stream of worry and kind of this like crazy mind game that YouTube plays with you as a creator, right? Where you want to see all of those you know, different tick marks go green, and they don't because you're not a creator that actually cares. But even though you don't care, you see these things and it starts bothering you that they don't go up every time or whatever the case may be, right? And it's an interesting kind of concept. I'm not tired of YouTube, and I'm really enjoying myself. I really have a fun time with this. I really like this hobby. But at the same time, I'm kind of grading against some of the ways that YouTube works, right? And I'm just concerned that will make me less interested in this, because at this point I've been really enjoying myself and I've been doing a lot of stuff, and it would just be disappointing if all of that kind of goes to waste because I got tired of how YouTube sometimes makes me feel, right? So I don't know, that's not really all that important to the, you know, to the audience, but it's something that I have been struggling with this month, just because I was like, dang, I'm putting out a video every day. The videos aren't really helping the channel grow, but also I don't want to stop because I like doing it, but also I might have to, but also, you know, if I did more research, it might work better, but also I don't want to do that because this is not a job, right? And so I'm just kind of very all over the place. And for whatever reason that happened this month, it's not something that I'm like deeply concerned about or anything like that. Like the way I'm painting it seems like it's a very serious issue for me. It's not. I only think about it every once in a while, but I have felt like I've thought about it more this month than usual. And so it's been a bit, it's just been in my mind a lot. So yeah, but that's it for the update. Let's move on to what I watched this month. So starting off with Stargate SG-1 Season 1. I really enjoyed this. I love Stargate. I initially found Stargate through Stargate Universe, the last kind of series based on the concept. Me and my dad used to watch this when I was growing up. I don't remember why. I think it was just we had Amazon Prime, but not like Netflix at the time or something. And it was whatever was on there that was like sci-fi based, and so we watched it. I really enjoyed the concept. Later, when COVID happened and I moved back home, I had to do something with my day, and that's something that I ended up doing happened to end up being just binging 8 seasons of Stargate. The thing is that after binging 8 seasons of Stargate, I got really, really bored. And I got really tired, and I was upset that it was like the same thing over and over again because I watched it in such a short period of time, right? So I dropped it. I stopped watching it. And recently, in the last month or two, I've been really wanting to get back to it because I really like the concepts in it. I find it to be very enjoyable. It's a very nice, easygoing, kind of like military sci-fi that gives me all of the stuff that I want from military sci-fi, as well as really, kind of takes on those things that I really like out of other stories, right? Like that kind of travel log vibe where there's a central like group and they travel to different places and interact with these people in different ways. And I know that I could watch Star Trek, but I find Star Trek kind of boring, like the traditional sense. Like it's interesting and it's cool, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't need like the way that Star Trek works to be what I watch, right? I rather watch Stargate. So I've been really enjoying it. I watched all of the first season. I started watching the second season, but I've not really gotten around to watching too much of it because for whatever reason this month, I've been kind of feeling a bit overstimulated, if that makes sense. Like I want to watch TV and then I sit down to do so and then I'm like, okay, never mind, I don't want to do this. And then I sit down to read and then I'm like, okay, wait, never mind, I don't want to do this. And this happens like in this repetitious cycle. And it's been feeling kind of weird. I think I'm over it now. I kind of settled in again because school started and I'm enjoying my classes and I have a schedule now and stuff like that. So I'm feeling much better about that. I don't feel overstimulated, but it's been kind of a weird kind of situation for the past month. So yeah, so I watched all of Stargate and I think I started it in July and then I finished it early in August and then I started Stargate season 2 a couple days ago. So yeah, then I watched One Piece Stampede. I mentioned this in my check-in video. I just really like this movie. I know it's not the best in terms of storytelling, but I really like the way that it feels. I like the concept, and I enjoy just watching Luffy and crew and all of the other, secondary characters show up and just have a fun time in a weird kind of place, right? So, yeah, then I watched Alien Romulus with my family. We went down to visit our parents mid-August because we wouldn't get to see them until December if we didn't go then. And we decided to go, and my dad wanted to really watch Alien Romulus, and so we did. And I don't like Alien the movies all that much. I mean, I find the first movie fine. I understand the concept, and I understand the value that I had at the time. But I think Prometheus is a much better version of that movie because the first movie is just insanely boring. Like looking back on it, right? Like as a modern person that didn't see it when it first came out. To me, Alien is a very boring, played out movie because I've seen that trope that Alien created happen over and over and over again. And honestly done at a much faster pace and been much more interesting, right? So that's why I didn't really like Alien. I didn't like Prometheus the first time I watched it either. But when I watched it like later, I enjoyed it much more. And Alien Romulus was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I just don't like IRL body horror, if that makes sense. And I find myself much more interested in how creepy and scary the androids are compared to the xenomorphs. Like, I don't think that the xenomorphs are that interesting because it's just a monster, right? It's just a beast. But the androids are fake humans that we made to feel comfortable. And then when they actually act like robots and not humans, they're insanely concerning. They're so creepy. And I think that's just because we live in a more technological age. AI of the sort is not necessarily possible right now, but it's certainly on the way. And so I get much more struck by man versus machine than I do man versus beast, right? Or man versus nature. And I find that concept, the humans versus androids, and the fact that the androids are so crazy and that they work only for the company, much more scary and concerning than I do the aliens. So yeah, then I watched half of The Crow, the original movie. I thought it was kind of fun, but also it was so cringy and so old school, and dude, it was, me and my roommate could not get past the 40-minute mark. We were just not interested. I find the movie very aesthetically pleasing. I like the vibe, but it just really feels like discount Gotham with a weird version of Spider-Man. And I don't know why people think that movie is cool. Well, actually I do, because back in the day when it came out, that was probably awesome as fuck, right? That was super cool, super different, very, interesting. But again, it just played out by this point. I don't find anything about it super appealing, and it's so like it feels like it wants to be edgy, but it just doesn't manage to get there, and it's weird. I don't know. I do want to finish it just because I want to know what the story is, but I can't find myself going back to it because God, it's just so cringy. But I mean, there's some boobies and some cool stuff there, so it's fine. I will eventually finish it. I just don't know when. Then I start watching The Boys season 4 with my roommate. I'm liking it, but I think it's lost a little bit of its luster, I guess. I mean, I've not felt the desire to really go back and finish it, which is very different from how I felt about the first 3 seasons. And maybe it's because it's been played out by this point. Maybe it's because this season is a bit different from the previous ones. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's because we've only seen 2 episodes and the conflict of the season hasn't really been expanded on yet. I don't know. But I do feel like I like it a little bit less than the previous seasons, and I just need to get back into the swing of things, and I'll eventually end up liking it quite a lot by the end, right? So, yeah, then we watched Bumblebee as a kind of like a comfort movie. Me and my sister, my roommate started watching it with us, but he went to bed because he was tired. And man, Bumblebee is such a great movie. I freaking love it. It's so good. It's just such a nice, feel-good, wholesome movie about this girl and her robot, and it's really fun. Then I started watching nothing, because that's the end. I started watching Stargate season 2, and I already talked about it, so that's all there is to say about that, right? So let's start with the books, okay? So in terms of books that I read digitally or online, I read Odyssey 1, Into the Black. That's the first book in the series, and Odyssey 1 is an amazing sci-fi, military sci-fi, space opera type story. It follows Eric Weston, the captain of the Odyssey 1, which is the first ship that the humans of Earth have been able to make that has faster than light travel, and he takes it out for his maiden voyage, and on the maiden voyage, they end up encountering other life, and then throughout this, they get embroiled into this intergalactic war, and it's very cool. I love it. It really does follow some of the humanity, like humans are space orcs, or like humanity fuck yeah type concepts, and I really like that because it manages to play with them and also play with like humans are stupid as fuck. Why do we do these things? In such a way that is really enjoyable, because it doesn't take itself like to the extremes. Like humans aren't the best thing ever, but they are pretty awesome, and I like that. I think that there's a very nice balance struck here between the humans and the alien characters that works really nicely for me, right? So yeah, then I read Odyssey 1, Heart of the Matter, which is book 2 in the series, and this is a less enjoyable book than book 1 because it does a lot of heavy world building elements, and since I've already read the series like 7 times, a lot of these elements feel kind of boring to me just because I know what they are, so I don't really have to go through them, you know, again. But it's not cool to skip chapters in books, so I read through them anyways, and that means that this book ends up becoming less and less my favorite over time, right? So yeah, then I read The Wandering in book 5, and actually I didn't read the whole book. I only read the second half because I had already previously read the first half twice. I read it once just because I was rushing through the Wheel of the Wandering In, and I was really looking forward to getting forward, to getting deeper into the story, and then I realized, oh, I need to record book 4's review first, so I went back and did book 4, and then I had to stop reading The Wandering In for a while because I had to study for school, and then I ended up forgetting about it, so I came back and reread the beginning from book 5 to chapter 17 in the series, or chapter 17 in the book, which is about the halfway point. It's before they switch over to what happens in Belleros, and I kind of got stuck there for a while, and then I came back to it this month because I was talking to Sam Harrison, and we had a Wandering In conversation on his channel. I'll leave a link to it down below, and I kind of felt reinvigorated, and I decided to finish reading book 5 in The Wandering In. It was awesome. I really like it. I think it's called The Last Light, and book name does match what is in the content of the actual book itself, and I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah, that's it for digital books. I did read some physical books, so give me a second and I'll show them to you in just a minute. So I read Sword Woman. I only read one story in this book because this is an anthology. And the story that I read in this book was Sword Woman, which is the introduction story for this character called Dark Agnes of Castellion, which is this woman right here. Although this drawing kind of makes her look really ugly, and usually people make her seem very, very beautiful because when she is introduced, the male character that is with her there kind of falls under her spell because she's this like savage beauty and a very angry woman, right? So yeah, then I read an Elborak story. Elborak is Robert E. Howard's take on like a Lawrence of Arabia type character or a kind of Indiana Jones type character. And I read The Daughter of Erlich Khan, which is the first story that he's in. It's not the first story in his like chronological like internal plot lines, but it's the first story that was published. And I didn't really like it. I thought it was kind of boring, mostly because I didn't understand his motivations. They felt a bit kind of contrived, more so than usual for Robert E. Howard, and so I wasn't all that interested in it. But you know, it is what it is. Not everything's gonna hit, not everything's gonna land, even if it's my favorite author or one of my favorite authors, because I think it's Brandon Sanderson, Edgar Rice Burroughs, and then Robert E. Howard, right? So yeah, and then I read some of the stories from the horror stories of Robert E. Howard. This is another volume in this collection, and I read The Children of the Night, which is a interesting kind of like story. Then I read The Blackstone, which is another interesting story, although this one felt much more enthralling than the previous one, than The Children of the Night, but also had a trope that is very played out by this point. And so it was kind of interesting because I enjoyed it a lot more, but at the same time, I wouldn't say that it was all that great in terms of like what it covers, right? And then I read this untitled fragment here, which is just a little section of story that was used to springboard a new story for this episode of Conan, which I will talk about in a bit, because I was reading these things for the book club, the Sword and Sorcery book club, because I was doing this reading event called The Road to the Blackstone, which was a little reading challenge that I made myself, talking about all of the different characters and their introductory stories for all of the different Robert E. Howard characters that are going to show up in this event, right? So yeah, that's it for the books. Let's move on to comic books now, because it ties into what I was talking about just now, which is that I was reading those books for the challenge, and I thought that another interesting thing to kind of mention at that point was Conan Serpent War, which was written by Jim Zub, and it's the first attempt that he made, as far as I understand it, to bring together these different Conan or Robert E. Howard characters, right? So we have Conan, we have Solomon Kane and Dark Agnes right there, and of course we have Moon Knight, because this was when Conan was over at Marvel for the second time, right? So yeah, this story was fun. I wouldn't necessarily say it was my favorite. I think that Jim Zub has very much grown as a writer and has managed to find his voice for Conan much better now. But the issue with this wasn't necessarily the writing. It was actually the fact that, like most comic book events, it feels like there's a lot going on and also not enough going on at the same time. And it feels like things happen too quickly or too slowly depending on the issue, and that's just kind of the nature of the game, I guess, because you have to balance all of these different characters, and sometimes it's just hard to do, right? So yeah, but I have reviews for all of those over on the Sword and Sorcery Book Club channel. So yeah, and then moving away from that, I do have a big ass stack of comic books. Most of these I reviewed already, so I'm not going to say too much about them, except for this one. So Power Fantasy #1. This is a cool cover. I would have preferred the main cover, but they didn't have it for whatever reason, so I got this one. And the thing is that this book is really cool. It's a very kind of more modern, kind of very political kind of take on X-Men by Kieran Gillen, who is a writer I enjoy. However, I don't necessarily feel that I would enjoy this story if I read it issue to issue, so I decided to trade wait. So I will be getting the first 2 issues because that's what had been ordered for me at the time. But after that, I will trade wait and decide if I want to read more of it after the first trade, right? So yeah, I just think that the way that he writes is probably better to enjoy, you know, all together in one sitting instead of like once every month, right? So yeah, then we have Sweet Paprika, Black, White, and Pink. This is a second issue of the anthology story. And this was mostly just to remind people that that Sweet Paprika exists, and as a way to kind of start, peddling, or kind of like preparing, advertising is the word that I meant to use, advertising for the new spin-off series that's coming out. I think it's Sweet Paprika Business Deals or something. I can't remember the name of it, but it follows two different characters, a new young man and his lover, or potential lover, as they work for Paprika. And although I don't necessarily have a problem with any of the content, I think it's perfectly fine, and I'm very happy that it's available. I am not interested in it because I don't care about those characters. I care about Sweet Paprika, and or I care about Paprika and Dill. And having a secondary series that doesn't focus on them feels very unnecessary, because not everything has to be an IP. I honestly don't think Sweet Paprika was that popular. Like, I don't think it can carry a second series that's not related to the main character. So I think it's an interesting experiment. I don't think it's going to work, though. So we'll see. It is what it is, right? Then we have Transformers number 11. This was not my favorite issue. It's probably on the lower third of the list in terms of issues. But it was interesting, and I don't have too much else to say. Then we have Kill All Immortals, and I'm really loving this series. I'm very excited for the next issue, but I did a review for it, so there isn't much to say there either. And that's going to be kind of a theme going forward, because I've reviewed most of these. That's mostly what I reviewed on the channel this month. Refer back to my rant at the beginning about it. So I'm not going to say too much about them. So here we have Witchblade number 2. This series is awesome. I love the artwork. I really enjoy the conversation that's being had here about women and the way that they exist in the world, and also what the plot line is so far, which isn't much. It's still mostly just introducing us, but we are getting kind of that like existential horror and body horror that I think the Witchblade lends itself to very well. Then we have Ultimate Spider-Man number 8. This series continues to be awesome. I want to check out more Jonathan Hickman stuff, but I also don't really feel like jumping into Marvel continuity, so I'm probably just going to stick to these out-of-continuity type stories that I've mostly been picking up from Marvel. Then we have Chitara number 2. I love this story. I love this cover. It seems like it's only going to last 5 issues, and I think that's pretty good. That's a full trade. Yeah, hopefully it finishes off strong, right? We have Dick Tracy number 4. I'm happy this is ending because I'm kind of getting tired of it, although this issue was much better than the previous one. Conan number 14, did a review for it on Sword and Sorcery Book Club, and I really like this story. I don't think the covers are that great, or at least this cover isn't that great, because I like Jay Lee's style. I just don't think it worked for me in this case. Barbaric number 3, I mentioned yesterday that I like this series, but I feel like sometimes only having 3 issues is a hindrance more than it is a benefit, and I felt this pretty strongly this time, so it is what it is. Here we have Ain't No Grave, and this was a phenomenal issue that only had 2 words in the whole thing, and it was wonderful. It was so good. This manages to be an awesome kind of look at storytelling without, having to have words in it. It was all visual, and it was great. Then we have Gun Hunting number 4. This series is a bit disappointing for me this time around, because I really loved the first season. I really loved the second season. I thought Heatseeker was fine, but Gun Hunting number 4, or book 4, or whatever you want to call it, I think it's technically volume 3, but part 4 in the whole story, just didn't manage to hit the notes that I needed it to hit in terms of the artwork. I think the story is still good, but it's a bit disappointing that the artwork is lesser than before. Then we have Blue Beetle number 11. I'm so sad this is over. I sent a message to Trujillo and Gutierrez and Quintana about how great the series was. They told me that they were very happy I liked it, and that they were going to move on to different things. And I just really hope that these guys get to work on Blue Beetle again, because it seemed like they had a lot to say and they didn't get to finish saying it. So I think that they left themselves open for another series called Freshman Year. But also they try to kind of end it in a place where anyone can start a new story later. And I just hope that they come back to it eventually, because I really loved what they were doing with Blue Beetle. Then we have Ultimate Spider-Man number 7. Awesome stuff, not much to say. My Adventures with Superman number 3. Favorite part here was the arrival of the Kent family, the Kent parents. I really love them. We have Supermassive number 3. This is the 2024 issue, and this was a bit disappointing for me just because I wasn't really aware what was going on. So I was probably in the minority thinking that it wasn't a very good issue, right? So yeah, then we have Dark Knights of Steel all winter. This is honestly better than the original series, which is a bit disappointing. But I think that's just because of the loss of momentum that the original series had with its poor planning, with the fact that it was taking so long to come out, right? So and then we have Thundercats number 7. Good series, but I feel like it's taking a bit too long, so I hope that it starts picking up the pace a bit here soon. Remote Space is number 3 out of 4. I'm happy it's almost over. I love the artwork. I think that the story took too long to start. So yeah, then we have Rogue Sun number 21. I like the story. I didn't like the artwork too much here. I don't think Abel's my favorite artist, but it wasn't bad. It just wasn't my taste. Then we have Savage Sword of Conan number 4. This is the Battle of the Blackstone issue. This has 8 different stories, 9 different pinups, and some really cool information about how Jim Sub started writing this stuff, right? So yeah, overall, this is probably the best issue so far, but it still has some issues, and I don't really like this cover, although it is like very nicely done. It has a lot of great techniques and stuff like that. I just don't find that I like it, right? But this was really great. It had the debut comic book story by Jeff Shanks, the guy that does the essays at the back of the Conan stuff. I am going to interview him at some point in the coming month, and I really like this guy. I think he's fun. I met him before. We got to talking about archaeology and pseudo-archaeology and, you know, cataclysm stuff, like the Younger Dryas period. And I really like talking to him. I think he's great. I love all the work he does, and I think he did a great job with the launch of his first story. And I really enjoyed basically everything that was in here. There was only 1 or 2 hiccups here and there. One of them was the printing on some of the things. It just wasn't very clear. And the other one was that they chose to use an anime art style for Dark Agnes, which I like because I like anime and manga and stuff like that. But I just don't think that it really fits for the audience that this is for. And it also didn't really fit that character, right? So we'll see what happens there. But overall, 9 out of 10 for this issue. Then we have The Forged, number 9. This is the last issue in this arc. And it was pretty great. There were some really interesting developments there with the storyline. There were some cool twists and turns. And overall, I really, really liked it. I will try to do a review for this volume here at the end of the month at some point in September. But we shall see if I get around to it or not, because I'm looking at a big old pile of sci-fi books over there already that I need to figure out, right? So, yeah, that's it for the comic books. Actually, it's not it for the comic books, because I also read Elfquest. I did not finish the second story arc, but I did get most of the way through. It's been pretty enjoyable. I will do a review for it next month, and Elfquest is great. I really, really love it. I think the art style is great. I love that it's in black and white, and it's been really fun because this time it's not about finding a new place to live. It's about going out and finding other elf groups, other elf I don't want to say races, because they're not really different races. They're all still elves. They just have different adaptations. But let's call them different tribes, right? So they're out looking for different tribes. And we get to see that Cutter and Skywise, I think that's his name, his best friend, I think it's Skywise, are really kind of having this difficult time trekking through these different places because their wolves get too tired over time. They're going into different unknown locations, and they're struggling with some of the dangers that they're facing, right? And it's a really good story. I really, really like it. So yeah, now we're done with the comic books. I think so, yeah, for sure. I'm pretty sure we're done with the comic books now, so let's move on to the manga. Okay, so in terms of manga, I didn't read too much, but I think I read enough to really start getting through my pile of unread manga, right? So we start with Marry a Billionaire. I read book 2 and book 3, and I was really hoping to read the rest of it, but I really love this series. I think it's great. I think it's really enjoyable, but I waffle on it a bit because I don't know if I can even talk about it on the channel. And not that everything I read has to be a video, but I kind of want everything that I read to be a video because I really enjoy talking about this stuff, and I think that it's important to talk about these types of books that have sexuality as a main aspect of the story, because I feel like so many people think that it's bad to have sex in your stories at this point in time. A lot of, Gen Z, people my age, and some of the younger millennials and even younger people than that are thinking that, sex in your movies and stuff and in your art is weird and bad. And that is so incorrect. That is not true, right? Sexuality is a part of life. And it's important to kind of highlight that. But at the same time, because of YouTube, I don't know if I really want to put it up. Put a video up on it, and so I'm kind of constantly waffling about it, and so my interest in it kind of ebbs and flows a lot throughout the month. But I do want to finish reading it at some point, so hopefully I will finish reading it next month, but we shall see. So yeah, overall, very good stuff. If you like The Bachelor or Bachelorette and stuff like that, you might like this because it's kind of the same concept. I don't like those shows, but I have ended up kind of consuming some of them this month because my sister likes watching with her old friends, and they FaceTime together while they watch it, and it's really funny. And so I have caught glimpses of it while I make dinner, and it's not horrible. It's just I don't like reality TV, but I don't mind watching manga that's based on it, right? So or reading manga that's based on it. So yeah, that's kind of an odd point to make, I guess, but I made it, so there you go. Then I read Blue Lock. I read all of volume 11 and all of volume 12 right here. Yeah, there you go. And all of volume 13. I did buy volume 14 this month, but I didn't get a chance to read it, so I will be reading it in September. And this series is great. I love it. I think it's just the right amount of edgy and cringy to be fun without kind of causing me embarrassment, but also very good at what it does. And it's very, very enjoyable. I love it. I think it's really, really fun. I'm not much of a sports person. I don't go out of my way to play sports, but I do enjoy watching them every once in a while. And I love the kind of elements of growth as an individual that we get to experience through sports. And, Blue Lock kind of shows that a lot. And there's a lot of things about Blue Lock that function as lessons to real life, even though it sounds crazy and ridiculous. Some of the stuff that has been said in Blue Lock in this arc about luck and about flow state and stuff like that has been stuff that has been mentioned to me in my MBA, in my electrical engineering career, where it's about finding ways and opportunities by constantly looking for them and getting into the state of a flow where you can just go through the processes that you need to go through to create something, right? To do something. And it's interesting that a death game anime is the one that's talking about them and not, kind of Naruto or something, right? So yeah, so I really like Blue Lock and I really enjoyed this arc. And then I read The Boxer #3, and this story is awesome, but I don't think I'm going to collect more of it at this point. I've been finding it really hard to grab these volumes, to find these volumes anywhere, and that's disappointing. I don't want to necessarily go out of my way to look for them, so I'm just going to wait until they become more accessible, and that will hopefully help me save a little bit of money, right? So, yeah, but this story is great. If you like stories about, fighting, but don't want necessarily like a tournament manga, like Record of Ragnarok, I recommend The Boxer. It has all of that. It has the things that you care about, but it's more of a traditional sports manga where it's about a character building their abilities and then interacting with them. And it's interesting because the character that we're following is someone that doesn't even care. He doesn't actually find interest in it, but he is looking for a reason to care. At least that's what I think. And the people around him are helping him push to do these things. And it's very, very interesting. So yeah. Then I started reading The God of High School, and I DNF'd it because, DNF means did not finish, because this is a very bad book. The story is good. I've already read the story, and I enjoyed the story, but it's very hard to read in this tiny little volume that can't open properly. I feel like I have to rip this to be able to access all of it. There's so much gutter loss. It's so annoying. And it really ruins some of the experience because it's very hard to read something that has to have these full page bits of art when you can't even see half of it when you open the book, right? That's a very, that's annoying. I don't like this. And I think that it's really stupid that this costs $19 And it's the smallest version of the unscrolled webtoons that they've made. And the fact that this is the only one that they made in this size is ridiculous. I don't know why they did that. Like, it sucks. And it's really bad, and it's very concerning, and it's very annoying because I wanted to be able to collect this physically in some way, and this is the worst way to do it. So I'm very unhappy with this. I DNF'd it, and I'm gonna give it away as part of my giveaway when I actually end up doing the video for that. So yeah, but overall, very unhappy with this. And then finally we have Initial D. This is the Omnibus edition, and this was great. I really, really liked it this time around. I really disliked it last time around when I read it in the digital format that was a copy of the Tokyo Pop version, because I felt that the Tokyo Pop version was very badly translated. It had very bad scans, and it was just not great. I had a very difficult time reading this. I did not enjoy it. However, this time around, I really, really liked it. I think everything is so clear. The translation is much, much nicer. And because I read past the first volume, I have a lot more appreciation for what the story is about, which is this young man's realization that cars are cool, that he wants to be this, and that he wants to grow as an individual and grow as a race car driver, or a drift car driver. And I really, really liked it. There is one complaint that I had that I didn't make in my review for this, which is that some of these pages, they're in color, so there's color pages, right? And color pages, in this case, have a different texture. They're like plastic pages, like you get from comic books, right? However, there's like 10 of them or something, or maybe 11 of them, and two sides of them, this page and this page and this page and this page, are all that fancy plastic, and they're in black and white. Why would you do that? That seems like a big waste. I don't understand why they had to do that. I'm sure there's some reason, either monetary or due to contracts or something like that, that they did that, but it's very unpleasant. They should have put the covers of the books in there at some point in order to change it so that you could use those fancy pages for color, for things in color. And I feel that that is a big shame that they did that they wasted these pieces, these bits of nice paper, because there's no reason to have black and white on them, right? So yeah, that's my only complaint. Otherwise, it's a great book. So yeah, those are my readings and watchings and musings for the month. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you read this month. What was your favorite thing to read? And did you watch Alien Romulus? Let me know down below. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching, and see you guys later.